and thanks for joining us on New Dawn Nigeria, your weekend magazine program on Viewer Television. My name is Chinon Supan.
And of course, I am Phillips Levin. We are here, of course, to dish you all the interesting news and, of course, an exciting, packed up program just to make your weekend a very, very interesting one. As we know, every week Nigeria comes with its own juicy aspect of stories. Now, throughout this week, there has been several interesting
Yeah,
stories that
it's been a packed week.
it's usually dramatic every week. And here on this platform, we make sure that we give you all the juicy aspects of those stories. Remember, this program is here to enlighten you and give you keep you updated on what has been happening all through the week from Monday till Friday. And of course, as usual, we'll look at newspaper headlines and give you some of the top stories there. And of course, we have an interesting discussion, exclusive interview
Yeah.
that will be coming your way also. So all you have to do is sit back, relax, enjoy every bit of this program. Just stay tuned. Well, it's good to know that you are still with us on New Dawn. Remember, this is a weekly breakfast show that gives you all the juicy stories that have been happening within and, of course, outside Nigeria. Now, usually on this platform, we give you updates on what's happening from a few selected national dailies that we have in the country, just to keep you abreast on what has been happening all through the week. Now, if any of the stories really did capture interest or intrigue you, drop by any vendor close, you get a copy. And of course, find out more about that story, or rather, you can visit the e-platform and, of course, get details there. Now, we'll start from the fourth day of September, that is Monday, and look at the top stories there from a few national dailies and see how it has gone through so far. Now, the top story there is for Monday, NLC shuns meeting with federal government begins two-day warning strike. Now, regarding that, the Labour Congress NLC has vowed to carry on with its planned two-day warning strike beginning on Tuesday. Yeah? The NLC said it was not aware of any meeting with the federal government that took place on Monday. And moving forward, TUC snubs NLC strike call. That is the Trade Union Congress saying it won't be part of the strike declared by the Nigerian Labour Congress. Now, the union said to have decided at its National Executive Committee meeting, which was held on Sunday in Abuja, it will that they do continue dialogue with the federal government to ease the pain of petrol subsidy. Now, the case is if there is no unionism between the labor, um, the congresses, then definitely there's bound to be trouble.
Yeah.
Where you have a divided house, then
Yeah.
definitely there is bound to be chaos at the end. Now, no minister under me had the power to approve over 25 million naira without my consent. That was a statement from Obasanjo, the former president, saying no member of his cabinet had the authority to approve more than 25 million without his consent when he was leading the country. That's between 1999 and 2007. Electricity meter upgrades won't affect credit balance. That's according to federal government. But it is sad when it is the same federal government that increased literally everything now in Nigeria, directly or indirectly. It is now the same federal government that is increasing. Instead of it to consider these things, there are small things that at least let's ease up on the common man. But it is hard for you to eat. It is hard for you to breathe. Now it's hard for you to even get light. You understand? And
when I heard somebody actually told me this, when I heard it, the first thing I remembered was like, did they increase the tariff? Why would they increase the tariff? Why would they increase it? Why would they increase it? And then I'm like, oh, okay, it's not the tariff, but still, this is not the tariff. This is the meter.
And you know, and you know the case of the tariff increase is already somehow there. It will come. It will come somewhere somehow. But now to get what you buy the tariff is expensive. Buy the tariff is also expensive. And if you don't want to use meter, you want to use gen. To get fuel is expensive.
It's expensive.
You won't say, okay, you go with nature and just enjoy the breeze because everywhere is hot.
Everywhere is hot.
You understand? Alright, that's for meters. Now, flood risk rises in Lagos, Nasarawa, Bayelsa coastal communities. The government of Lagos and Nasarawa have urged those living in their coastal communities to relocate immediately, citing increased risks of flooding and its deadly consequences. Meanwhile, some of the residents in the threatened Otok community in Obia local government area of Bayelsa have urged the federal government and state to come to the rescue. That was what I want to say. Now you're asking me to relocate. Where will I relocate to? There should be an emergency health emergency shelter. There should be made possible for at least anybody who wants to relocate. If they are saying you should relocate, where will you relocate to?
That's the question.
That's
you have
your
to
village.
call friends and
that's your ancestral home. You understand? They want you to relocate. See, you are aware of relocation. That's why you didn't relocate and left that your place. It's because you don't have anywhere. And
in case of emergency, you now ask them to relocate. And then these are people who we don't know how they're eating fresh too. We don't know how they are surviving fresh. You as a government, you cannot release emergency funds for them because you said there is no budgetary allocation for emergency, for flood emergency. You're saying there's nothing for that. It's just funny because we always expect this. If it happened last year and the year before, you should preempt if you've not put any measures that it will happen again. So there was no allocation for that. Even they don't have budget plans, family budget for relocation.
That's not there. It's even far better and more annoying if you can make it like, okay, look at there's one tree there, you guys should go and stay there. But you didn't say anything where one will go. Now, if they should, let's take for instance, decide and pack their things, maybe in the case of Abuja, maybe move to Yankaso or Waripa. They'll come. Wiki will come.
They are causing nuisance.
All right, and that's for flooding. Ibman, 60% of all marketers now redundant. That's members of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria lamenting that forex situation and structural imbalance in the pricing regime are frustrating their full participation in downstream sector contrary to ideals of full deregulation. I just feel the federal government is just frustrating everybody, directly or indirectly. Everybody is frustrated because You can't say that, okay, you are part of whatever sector, and at the end, you can't live freely. Some way, somehow, uh, they are affected. Well,
Biting hard on all of us.
mhm. I think that's about it for the fourth day of September, which is Monday.
Okay.
Maybe you help us with
So
the
let's
one on
move
Tuesday.
to Tuesday. Yeah, same news. Tuesday, which is 5th of September. NLC Sean's meeting with federal government begins 2-day warning strike. Yeah. We know the strike began on Tuesday and ran through Wednesday.
There was a strike, but somehow I didn't feel any strike.
You feel it with the power outage. We did with the power outage.
Aside the case of power, had it been, it didn't take off. Power in Abuja.
Yeah.
It would have been like any other. It would have been like one
It was
Saturday,
every other day. Yes, it was like every other day.
I don't.
Well, people will not respect this is because there is still a no work, no pay policy. And you're keeping me 2 days off work. So a lot of people, civil servants, went to work that day and they were still sent back. So I think that's why we didn't even feel anything in reduced traffic or anything, because they went and they weren't let into, most of them weren't let into the buildings and all. But we felt the impact just on, I think they went on their private, because these days we can't help but recognize that people are doing their private things outside. I guess it's why we didn't even feel that just any strike. Has NLC lost their impact as a union? Because
as usual, they can have this high tempo of drum beating where you think the whole country will be still, but at the tail end you will just wonder, who do us? That's just
that's just it. Who do us? Is there an end in sight?
Seriously.
All right, moving on. Labour vows to ground the economy by beginning strike, which they began.
And it lasted for 2 days. And I thought it was just Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
That was what I thought. Like, oh, today is Saturday, oh, tomorrow is Sunday, no work, and that's
day goes on.
The usual impact that one feels if a labor is going for a strike wasn't felt. At least
it wasn't felt.
We're not looking for that where the economy will be at risk.
Yeah.
At least if there is need for that, let it be impactful. If I didn't feel it, do you think the government will?
No, they didn't. They didn't. And that's why they've called them toothless bulldogs, because you made all this mouth and everything. We didn't
at the end, the aim is defeated, and it's still the common man that feels the
yeah. Like they say, it was normal. Markets were still open in most areas. We didn't hear people say, "Oh, we went to market. We weren't granted access." Everything just went on. I think everybody, to NLC too, they should go back to the drawing board. Since we're all going back to the drawing board, they should go back to the drawing board and see how they can make themselves more.
What usually happens before is if the NLC says they are going on a strike, they make noise. They will just call a few of their leaders and be like, we know you guys are angry, but we assure you that we'll sort this out. Meanwhile, on your way home, we left one Ghana must go there, you can carry. But see, I assure you, work on this. You don't have to go on this strike, okay? You'll be like, but if you guys didn't fix it by next month, I'll come back. They are coming back so that they will get another Ghana must go, you understand? So that they will be like, sorry again, sorry.
Oh my God.
So indirectly, I don't know if the practice still works. If someone from a union comes out saying that they are protesting on this, they are only looking for what will come out.
And every Nigerian knows that now. That's why we just shun it. Well, we're not going to stop our own lives because of you guys' selfish interest. So we'll move on and do what we have to do for today.
So it's just like one of the leader, maybe he's broke or he has demands for money. You'll be like,
let's just shake things.
Strike.
Let's strike. There's actually a reason to strike right now.
Seriously.
There's actually a reason to strike. Wow. Well,
you'll just bring out one issue. Did they pay you your pension last month?
He did not.
You need to go on strike for that
strike.
pension.
Yeah, a strike. All right. The federal government in a meeting with the TUC, they set a 2-week timeline on wage award, tax exemptions, and allowances to public sector workers to cushion the pains and anguish they are going through as a result of subsidy removal.
2 weeks.
This is still...
These are the type of things, 2 weeks. They will say 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Before you know it, it's 8 years already.
It's 8 years, yes.
Another government will come
we'll
and
just even forget.
Give us 2 months, we'll sort this out. 2 months, they'll add another 2 months, 2 months.
When drama, what happens is that we forget things a lot. By the time another drama has unfolded next week and everything, we'll even forget that those people, I'm sure even they themselves, they wake up and, we're supposed to meet today in secretariat. They will just totally forget because you are taken by the drama that's happening, and the other parties are just like, thank God, this thing has come up now, man. These guys, they'll forget about this our issue right now and face other things. That's how it happens. I saw on the news, I don't know what state now that granted the Labour Congress 2 billion naira check for loans to cushion their own subsidy removal. So maybe these things they are doing it so that other states too.
How many? 2 million or
2 billion?
Okay.
2 billion naira. So to grant loans to maybe members of the union. Everybody should agitate too so that their states governments will begin to do things like that for them. Since they are talking about wages and all of that, so by giving you guys loans.
Somehow, I feel the loans won't still solve the matter.
It won't solve the matter. It's a loan. It never solves those matters.
Because the thing is, the labor, they are working class. Let's look at those that are not working. Will they benefit from this loan?
No, they will not. It's for the union, so it's for people in the service. So it's expected that you now have more money so that you can go to the nano markets and all those businesses and you can afford to buy things from them. So that's how we get there. But this is just normal. This is just basic. The labor shouldn't be happy about that anyway in that state, because that is how that state governor has just sat down and said, okay, this is how we'll pay. Because remember that the 5 billion that was given as palliatives to each state, part of it was given as loans. And then I'm sure the federal government is like, man, we can't take on any 5 billion loans. So they've taken part of it and disbursed it as loans to you guys. This is not they are not grants or anything. So in essence, you guys are the ones paying the federal government back for the palliative loan that was given to the states.
That the state is supposed to pay back.
It sounds like that particular governor is a very strong businessman. Whatever he did there is a serious businessman. Anyway, the presidential poll petition. So military police warn protesters as tribunal delivers verdicts. So the security agencies have said they will not condone any unlawful action by troublemakers ahead of the delivery of the judgment of the presidential election petition tribunal in Abuja. This happened on Wednesday. Thankfully to God, we didn't hear any form of violence or any form of crisis in any part of the country. Yes, as expected. People were on their toes. Leave town early, especially for Abuja residents. We heard that because I know of someone who was supposed to come into Abuja but didn't come into Abuja, moved the appointment because she wasn't sure what was going to happen in Abuja. But
well, again, we all know that if something is bound to happen, you feel it from the preparations of
the security agencies.
Not the security. Like if there's a tension, there's this way that your neighbors might not be part of it, but you feel it.
You feel feel something.
And that feeling wasn't
there
when this whole thing. It was just verbal. People were just being we're just looking out like this could possibly happen. But from the usual agitations that we usually know in Nigeria, if something is bound to happen, from the night before, you will feel it. But that feeling wasn't there. So me, I just knew it will.
Everything was going to. So you
Yes.
felt like no matter which way it went.
If it will happen, it wouldn't be in Abuja. If there would
If
be,
it, there will be, it won't be in Abuja. I actually felt a little uneasy on Wednesday because I remember giving them strict warnings at home before leaving the house. Lock the door inside.
Oh, you went out.
Don't step out. Yes, I was out till
you
9.
Understand? Then
Yes,
well,
it wasn't
usually,
there. But
in some cases, you yourself.
You will not step out.
usually, you yourself, you go and buy food. I make sure that everything is intact. I have enough this. I have enough. That is
that didn't happen.
The case, but that did, you went out.
That didn't happen.
So me, I felt I just knew the usual agitation that we know happens in Nigeria. You hear people are buying units, are buying water, are buying food. But that wasn't there. In fact, people went out. I went out that day, went round, and everything was normal. There wasn't this.
Everything was fine. So we're thankful for that. So lastly, Obasanjo Sanusi blast Buhari over reckless spending. So from a former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the 14th Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido, took a swipe at the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari over the bad shape of the economy. So we cannot shy or just ignore and say that however we are now is an offshoot or a spill-off of the last administration anyway. But if somebody's saying this about him being reckless in his spending, what are we going to be saying after now with such a robust government that we have right now and increases in their allocations that we are seeing in pockets?
Definitely I've been expecting this from someone like
Obasanjo, yeah.
Someone like Goodluck Jonathan, because people didn't feel the impact they are feeling now during their regime. So definitely they will come and brag.
They will come out and yeah.
They will come and brag, but regardless, Obasanjo, I wouldn't say there was flow of cash. So, every government had its own ish.
Yeah, every government had its ish. Every government. Talking about that, I don't see. You know how President Goodluck Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan behaves. He's just watching us now, just be like, "Tough, my people, my people." All right, that's all for news on Tuesday.
That was the 5th of
5th,
September.
yeah, so 6th of September.
Now to 6th, that's Wednesday. Still about the presidential poll and the presidential petition came. We forgot there was a case of Mali junta, Gabon, and other ECOWAS.
You see. So that's what happened. There's always something in the media trying to take our attention off pressing matters.
But it will have been an interesting news had it been the tribunal said otherwise. All right, for 6 September, presidential poll heavy security as tribunal decides Atiku Obi's petition against Tinubu. We're talking about the heavy security deployment at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, and other flashpoints and dark spots in Abuja. That was on Tuesday, ahead of the delivering of the judgment to the petition. Also, a subsidy. NLC shuns federal government's peace talk, insists on strike. Palliative diversion. Governor Sule applauds DSS arrest of suspected Nisama. That's the department's. The Department of State Services DSS has arrested some officials of the Nasarawa State Emergency Management Agency and their accomplice for alleged diverting palliatives meant for vulnerable citizens. I wish that could be the case in every state.
Yeah, in every state.
And 100 days, Tinubu inherited a battered economy. That's according to federal government. It's good that it's coming from their own house.
Yeah, it's coming from their house. But we're tired of hearing this inherited debts, inherited this, inherited that. They are not supposed to. That's the thing. You come in, you are a problem solver. That's why you're in office.
Now, according to them, That's I'm trying to see how I can put this in a more amicable manner.
I'm trying to be diplomatic about
yes,
it.
the federal government said that President Tinubu inherited a battered economy, but changed the narrative within 100 days in office. They changed the narrative. Now, one might be like, yeah, you guys did. You did change the narrative, and you did that very clear.
You did very clear.
But the narrative you changed wasn't like you changed it for good. You changed it to a to the worst narrative.
This 3 months has been, I have never seen turnout of events this quick in the history of Nigeria that I know. In 3 months, wow!
It was just faster.
Oh wow! It's been very fast. It's been amazing. That is why Nigerians can thrive anywhere, because if we've gone through this in 3 months, wow!
Something that normally could have been gone through, let's say 3 years.
Yes, this is enough for 3 years. This is enough for 3 years. We've taken it in 3 months.
As they've said, they've changed the narrative. So
the narrative has really been changed.
It doesn't matter whether it's for good or for bad. The narrative changed it within 100 days. Now, our tribunal sacks Kogi senator and other supplementary elections. That's the Kogi East Senatorial Election Tribunal sitting in Lokoja sacked Senator Jibrin Issa, that is a Koko, the Senate Committee Chairman on Customs, Excise and Tariff. I think that was what people were expecting from the presidential tribunal, where they will hear the election tribunal sacked President Tinubu.
That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough to happen, because this particular tribunal is not one to look at sentiments or look at it's. Like one of the diciest anywhere globally, an election tribunal is not one to move with sentiments. You know, a lot of Nigerians would have hoped it swung another way or something, but they are not going to be moved by sentiments.
Now, someone was jokingly saying that you guys were sleeping during the tribunal. How is it that now you're complaining or you are surprised at the results? You remember?
They had to sleep.
A lot of them
had to sleep. No,
so you guys were sleeping all through. Possibly they made mention of the fact that this will turn out, but you guys were busy sleeping.
It was a painful over 12 hours.
You just be hearing respondents.
You sleep.
Respondent number one.
You see, I think I was just no. You would sleep. It was painful. Wow. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying not to laugh at the pictures and watching those things.
And interestingly, the newsmen decided only to capture those who are busy sleeping.
Those who were busy
sleeping. Were enjoying their sleep.
But there was nothing they could do. Whichever angle you tried to take a shot from, somebody was sleeping. There is nothing you could do about it.
They were bored, so they were looking for something.
They were looking for something that would, try to spice it, because
so that at least you laugh and stay awake.
One thing that caught me, I know, is that Vice President Shettima did not sleep. I don't know how he did that. I didn't spot him sleep. I don't know. I didn't see it throughout, but I know I didn't spot him sleep. I didn't spot Aisha Yusufu sleep. But the rest, wow, people slept. People slept during that 12 hours.
Thank God our president wasn't there.
Yeah, thank God he wasn't there. No, it won't have been nice. No. You can't keep Mr. President sitting for that long to listen to a judgment. No.
But
it concerns him, but most of the petitioners were not there. They mostly sent representatives. I don't know if it was for any form of security reason. I don't know what was the thought behind that, but most of them were around during the trials and everything, but they didn't turn up. They sent representatives during the judgment, so we don't know the reason for that. It wasn't unlawful because, of course, the judgment went on, so we can't say, oh, they didn't come for this reason or the other.
Okay. All right, I think that's about the size.
Okay, that's it.
That day.
All right. So 7th September, our Labour Party, Peter Obi and Atiku reject presidential court judgment and they head to Supreme Court. So the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party and his Labour Party counterpart, Peter Obi, have rejected Wednesday's judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, affirming the election of President Bola Tinubu. This is one conversation that will go on for a very long time, because most Nigerians turned out disappointed or turned out excited about the judgment.
But the thing is this is I don't want to use the word game, but this is like war or battle. One wins, one loses.
There must
definitely
be losers.
If you lose, you will complain. Had it been any of the PDP or Labour Party won, definitely will still have the APC complaining.
Yes.
So whether we like it or not, one side will definitely have to complain.
Because so that's what's happening. There have been series of judgments even on state levels now and all that. You've heard APC in this state, when a senator has been sacked, say, the judiciary this, that, they've made complaints, it was unfair, it's not justice, you've come here and you don't have a problem with the judgment and all that because it favors you in this way, it doesn't favor you. Yeah, but these other parties like the PDP and the Labour Party, so they are exercising their constitutional rights to appeal and to head to the Supreme Court. As for that, I think this is their followers. Their followers want to see them do this fight to the finish.
Yeah, I feel the lawyers are just cashing out on this.
Of course they will. I will bill you if I'm your lawyer, and I will bill you and I will cash out because
they're just cashing out.
It's the election. It is no joke.
Of whether they win or they lose.
It's no joke because
they hope they win.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to imagine the number of lawyers that each of these sons would have behind them in their team investigating and all of that. I'm not a lawyer to come out and say the petitioner did a bad job or something, but you don't want to imagine that, so they would have to pay their lawyers. And if you say, oh, you want to appeal, you want to go to, everybody would let you. Your lawyer wouldn't tell you not to go, will he? He will not. I will not. I will not tell my...
Hence the need while they will say, let's take it to Supreme, because they know that's another money. More money.
All right, so federal government hiked the price of electricity meters. So that's it. There's no.
I think by 40% or so.
There's no rest. If I can remember the figure, I think the meters are being sold for 60,000 now. So we don't even know if that is a black market price, because nothing is actually clear. Nothing, everything is grade in Nigeria. As long as you have to buy something from ministry or anything, everything is a grade line. Okay, so now we're increasing it by 40,000.
By 40%.
By 40%, sorry. By 40%.
More than
it's more than 60,000 to get a meter now. Is that official? That's the thing.
It's about 100 or so. I forgot.
Is the 100? Is it the official price?
You know, initially, at a certain point, I know the meters are supposed to be free.
Yes.
But then wanting, they brought up some technical terms that warrant you to at least give something.
I thought Nigerian companies started producing meters at some point.
So many unanswered questions.
So many unanswered questions. So many.
And they're just increasing by the day.
This is just... And you're increasing, and you know, a few weeks ago, news came that you'd have to change your old meters. Let's rest in Nigeria now.
They say upgrade.
You have to upgrade. So let's... upgrading means you'd have to get new ones. Or is it the upgrading of the software?
The system, yes. It's not about...
So then it doesn't have to concern the public if it is upgrade of the software. I'm not the person. You don't even have access to your meters. Most of our meters are locked. You just have a box where you go and fill. So if it is about the software, it shouldn't be my problem. Upgrade the software yourself. So if I have to compulsorily upgrade my meter right now, you are hiking the prices of these meters. Wow.
But
that's a lot.
The consoling price is the little unit that you have inside won't be affected.
So much for consolation. Like you still have your unit.
You're banking on that.
You
possible
still have.
Take you through the weekend.
It's still there.
Wouldn't be affected.
It's still there.
Maybe 1 or 2 units might go just like that, but
yeah, but it's still there. People have actually been complaining that their units run out faster. And if I would do any sort of investigation, I'll say, oh, you were restricted from increasing your tariffs. Did you increase the consumption rates without us knowing?
I just wish they find a lasting point, not only to the meter issue or the fuel issue, but the whole
thing.
Economic lockdown in Nigeria.
So, moving on, Tinubu promises renewed focus to rebuild Nigeria. He welcomes the tribunal's verdict as expected. All right, Navy destroys 20,000 litre of oil-laden vessel in Rivers. The Nigerian Navy on Wednesday set ablaze another vessel allegedly used for illegal oil bunkering at the Ubuloma jetty in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. So we're cranking down on the oil theft.
I wonder how burning that fuel is. How burning that is an option.
Burning the vessel is an option.
Yes, it has oil inside. I wonder how burning it down is an option.
Is it the illegally refined petrol? That's another thing. If it is, then it's a matter of ethics that it be burnt and not sold or not used. I think that's the rationale behind them doing that.
I think there wasn't. Is it kerosene that they said?
No, oil.
Said oil. So there's that possibility that it's crude oil.
Yeah.
You understand? So whatever that case is, I don't think burning it. I think another way to refining it, or you understand?
That's still a waste.
Nigeria, my country.
Nigeria is our country. All right.
You know, usually when you see a situation where they are burning vessels, it's because they are trying to cover up something. If something is burnt, that means all evidence.
There's no evidence
is lost.
again.
There won't be any further case. You arrest the people, use the vessel as exhibit.
Yes.
Get to the root of the matter. How did it enter the process? Who sold that vessel to you? All these things will be checked. But if it's burnt, they'll just pack it and say that case closed.
That case is closed. Yeah, I get
That's
the
just
point.
it. So whenever the authorities burn down something, I feel they themselves they're covering something up.
So let's hear that it has been impounded and investigations are ongoing.
That's just it. Who was the vessel empty? You understand all these questions?
Yeah, questions need to be asked.
Was it empty? Who was there? Was there an arrest? How did you get to know that this vessel is like this?
Yeah.
Or is get to the root of the matter. But if it's burnt, they'll be like, okay, let's go look for another vessel again.
Let's look for another one. All right, moving on. Buhari reacts to presidential court judgment affirming Tinubu's victory. So, former President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed his happiness with the ruling of the Presidential Elections Petition Court confirming the victory of the APCs and its candidates, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate, Vice President Kashim Shettima. Yeah, and I'm just mentioning Vice President Kashim Shettima, but his I don't know if you saw the statement he made when he came out of court about the PDP's candidate Atiku, how he was going to send him to a village and give him cows and all of that. I know he finally took that back and said he was joking, but as an expression of joy, I think that was too far.
The game of politics, right? There are definitely dirty buzz for that, but on national telly, I don't know about that.
It didn't sound all right. Yes, you won the case. It's okay to be happy, but don't pull the next man down like that. Yeah. So of course, there's no other expected reaction, but that former President Buhari will be happy that the APC has made it through. Well, it's not the end we are seeing of the judiciary, because they have all assented to taking the case to the Supreme Court. All right.
As Atiku said,
yes,
he
he
must
has
have lost the battle, but the war is still on.
The war is on. The war is on. All right, we recorded greater compliance. Wow, this is what NLC says. The Nigerian Labour Congress on Wednesday ended a 2-day warning strike to protest the negative consequences of the petrol subsidy removal on workers, declaring that it recorded greater compliance on day 2 than the first day of the industrial action.
See,
so
at this point, I usually forget why NLC are going on strike. Is it fuel subsidy removal? I'll be like, oh, we already used that. So
because it feels like we have moved on.
The time when they were supposed to react has passed. When this thing started nearly, like since the first day they said they've removed subsidy.
Yes.
If they were to react, they were to react immediately.
Yes. June 13th, go on strike.
Leaving it till...
When the queues began to mount June 13th, you would have gone on strike and demanded for palliative before workers resume work.
They have given ultimatum. The ultimatum has lapsed. Even the committee did.
You've said this again. You've said that again.
Based on the narrative that
you said, greater compliance. That's one thing. What of the impact of the strike? What impact? Because the federal government, they are moving on. So whether you got more compliance and nobody came out and everything, even if people won't come out, trust me, they probably were saving their transportation and their petrol money.
They are moving on with increasing more things.
Yes, yeah. So it's one thing to have great compliance. It's another thing for the strike to have an impact. So which is it? On which side was it? All right. So that's the last news for September the 7th.
Now, for each September, that is Friday, yeah?
Yeah.
Top story there for Friday is 30 die in Abuja landslide, 19 kidnapped. And, at least 30 persons have lost their lives in a landslide reportedly triggered by activities of illegal miners in Kuje Area's Council of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
Wow.
And talking about the tribunal, the war is not over, says Atiku, former vice president and of course the presidential candidate of the PDP in the 2023 elections, saying the war is not over. Now, Obi rejects election court judgment, heads to Supreme Court. That is the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, the 2023 general elections. And finally, government orders closure of Osun Polytechnic. And that's the Osun state government ordered the closure of the Osun State Polytechnic Ire campus for 2 weeks. The directive for the closure is coming following the return of suspended rector Tajidin Detayo. That is, I believe, the last story that we have for Friday. As usual, you can just drop by any clues vendor, of course. Get any of those papers there and get more of those stories. Or the online platform is there, just one click away, and you get more details of that. Well, that has been all that we can offer as from the newspaper headlines for this week. And if any update regarding those stories come through, of course, definitely we'll bring that up without thinking twice. Well, that is for newspaper headlines.
Yes. Yeah, that's all for newspaper headlines. And after the break, we have an exclusive interview where we talk about grassroots governance and how you can hold the government of the day accountable to good governance and bring them to good governance. That's coming next after the break. Stay with us. Hello and a warm welcome to Viewer Exclusive. This program is packaged exclusively for you. Now, the government of today seems to be too out of reach and out of touch with the plight of her citizens. Now, there's a reason we have the three arms of government and the three tiers of government. Today, our focus is on the grassroots governance and how you can begin to hold your government accountable to good governance. My name is Chinon Supam, and I'll be speaking with an expert right after the break. Thanks for staying with us. This is Viewer Exclusive, and like I promised you, I'm being joined live in the studio with Dr. Victor. He is a development expert, a member of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators. I got that right.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's go straight into the matter of today. Grassroots governance is one part of governance that Nigerians seem to ignore. Right. You know, we just see during election times, you see one uncle, one auntie, or somebody there coming out and the person is running for office. But a lot of us, after those periods, we don't seem to feel their impact any longer. I would like to start by asking you what the function of the local government as a tier of the government is in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, a timely topic indeed. What a time for us to look at the roles of grassroots, the local people in the governance and the public administration of their society. So talking about the local government systems, perhaps the first question should be about the rationale for creating the local government in Nigeria. You recall that prior to the existence of local government in 1976, the colonial masters used what they call the native authority system. So through those native authority systems, they had, where they used the local chiefs, where they used some existing structures within the community to administer people at the grassroots. But in 1976, during the military era of Olusegun Obasanjo, there was a need to reform the local government system, whereby today we have what we call the local government as the third tier of government. And why do we have the local government as the third tier of government? It's because there is a need for the government to be brought close to the people at the grassroots. The federal government as it is, it seems a little bit very far from the common man. The state governments are not able to discharge some responsibilities of the people, or that will satisfy the yearnings and aspirations of the people at the grassroots. Remember, in a federal structure like the one we're operating in Nigeria, Section 55 of the Constitution actually brought out what they call the exclusive list. Outside the exclusive list, we have the concurrent list and you have the residual list. Now, when you look at those items under the residual list, you see some tasks that they don't seem big, but these are very important things for the people at the grassroots. Talking about the construction of culverts, talking about maintenance of cemeteries and what have you. And these are things that will matter most, in quote, to the people that you have at the grassroots. And that is actually the rationale why you need to have another tier of government that will be close to the people at the grassroots, that will be accessible to the people at the grassroots, that the representative of that tier will be closer to the people, number one, will be approachable to the people, number two, and they will always be accessible. These are very important concepts that we are talking about. So because when you don't have representatives that are accessible to the people at the grassroots, you create a system where there is a disconnect between the government at the center and the people at the grassroots. And what is the essence of government? The essence of government is to actually provide services, is to be able to provide the good, to deliver the goods to the people. And where the government is not able to provide those goods, then you subvert that social contract that exists between the rulers and the ruled. And that is actually the essence of government as well.
Okay, so well, we're going to talk extensively on accessibility because that's where I want our
focus to be, how people can actually reach to their government at that level. One of the functions that I have seen for the local governments, one of their major functions is to provide economic advice or economic suggestion to the state government. So in essence, the local government reports to the state government. Do we see that? And the state government, are they readily giving ears to the local governments that do this?
Thank you. Theoretically speaking, you have the setup of the government is supposed to be more like a computer system. Okay. A computer system in the sense that you should have something that provides the input, you should have a processing device, and you should have the output. Now, when you talk about the input, here you're talking about the people that you are talking about, whereby they need to provide the demands, they need to provide the aspirations, the complaints, the feedback, whatsoever thing that they feel that these are our felt needs, these are our priorities. These are the things that we need to make life better and easier for us. Now, these things are supposed to be organized in such a way that it is passed through those representatives that you talked about, especially at the local level. And when they pass that, this is supposed to be passed to the CPU, the central processing unit. I'm just using the computer as an analogy now. Now, you pass it through the CPU, it's supposed to be processed. And that is where the relevant stakeholders, the local government, the state government, and whichever agency that is supposed to be concerned in processing all those demands of the people, and then you provide that in form of an output. And what are those outputs? Service delivery. What are those outputs? Infrastructural development, economic development, all of those things that, that can make life easy, that can make life meaningful, and that can make life better for the people at the grassroots.
All right, let's break this down to what a layman, anybody watching us now, can understand. Accessibility to the government of the day now. I sit down at home and something comes up, security case, things like that, and I need to meet somebody in the government. I need the government to hear this. How do I go about that?
Fine. Under normal circumstances, before I will break it down to what you call what the layman can understand. Under normal circumstances, there are supposed to be systems that can be able to take those kind of complaints, those kind of yearnings, the people. There are supposed to be what the private sector will now call the customer service unit, where you have a complaint. When you go to banks, there is a unit or there is a personnel that is employed, saddled with the responsibility of listening to whatsoever complaints that you have, no matter how bad, no matter how unpalatable it is, you go and voice out your complaint. The government system is supposed to operate like that. You are supposed, in each government agency, in each government parastatal, you are supposed to have a body, you are supposed to have a personnel, you are supposed to have a unit whose responsibility is to listen to the demands of the people. And when people actually voice out their demands through whatsoever means, maybe verbally, maybe in written, maybe through their cultural group, social group, or any kind of association, that they are able to come together, maybe in a pressure group form, and they present their demands. The government is supposed to take those demands seriously. And by taking those demands seriously, these are supposed to serve as the basis for any kind of public policy that we are supposed to initiate in the society. In developed climes, public policies do not just happen in big cities. Like in Abuja, you just sit down and you say you want to do a poverty alleviation program, and you just assume that these are the needs of the people at the grassroots, and you start saying, okay, after a seminar, you take your bottled water and you start dishing out policies. No, you're supposed to actually dish down or trickle down those kind of nets to listen. What are these people, or what are the felt needs of the people? It's just like, permit me to digress a little bit. It's just like some of the activities of the non-governmental organizations. An NGO goes to the grassroots to provide some kinds of services. There is no needs assessment. There is no system that is able to ask the people what are your priorities at the moment. But you sit down in New York, you sit down in whatsoever big cities that you have, and you just assume that, okay, we are going to community A and we are giving them water supply. But did you really go there to check if maybe they have bigger problems than water? I'm not saying water is not a problem, but there are the economics will call something scale of preference. There are some things that will actually assume a more priority at a moment than some other things. So the same thing with the government. You cannot continue to assume on behalf of the people. In fact, from my experience, I will tell you that most of the people that initiate some of these policies for the government have little or no understanding of what the real needs of the common man is. And you know, when they sit down, like I said, in big cities and they make this kind of assumptions, the policy framework or the policy implementation has a lot of implementation issues. Why? Because in the first place, the conception part was not properly done. The people were not consulted. It was not done in a participatory and consultative manner. And that is the reason why the accessibility question that you talked about, people feel they are not involved. People feel they are not, the opposite of political participation, you say, is political passivity, where people become passive in political issues that relate to their societies. So there is need to be structures in place that allows people to voice out their demands. There need to be systems in place that allows people to articulate their own demands according to what they feel is their own priority, and government need to process that and provide it back to the people in form of output.
Okay, from what you've just said now, let me ask a question. Is it possible for us to begin to see policies, right? Policies in, say, local governments, or policies like pockets of policies in Nigeria, say in local government, as it suits these people, as it suits these people? Wouldn't they begin to be seen as these people are beginning to form their own colony or something, or would that work?
Yes, the whole idea of public policy or any kind of policy that you want to initiate is to actually address a need. Any policy that do not have the potency to address a need, it's not supposed to be called a policy. That is maybe just a decision or whatsoever word that I can call. Now, it's a big mistake, and it happens mostly in developing countries like ours, whereby blanket approach is normally used to make a policy. Blanket approach is normally used to cascade development. For example, let me give you this example, the issue of power supply. We struggle a lot with issues of power supply in Nigeria. And I will tell you that in most climes, power supply is not normally provided to the people using this kind of blanket approach and say, okay, you have a national grid and you supply and what have you. You look at what is peculiar to a particular society or to a particular community and see to what extent can you be able to harness their natural resources and translate them to power supply. You go to the northeast, for example, Adamawa, Gombe, Borno. These are areas where you can be able to tap into the natural resources of the sunlight and translate them into energy. When you go to the southwestern part of the country, you see that in fact there is a large basin of water, marine, whereby you can be able to extort. So what I'm trying to say is that this can also happen even in terms of policy initiation and implementation. Look at this community. What is the need that these people are having? And design a policy that can address that particular need. Instead of just sitting down as a central government and you just do one policy and you are implementing it to all the 774 local governments in Nigeria without necessarily taking into cognizance that what society A needs may be different from what society B needs.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Well, we'll come back to you and discuss more. We're still in conversation with Dr. David. Let's take a quick break, and viewer exclusive, we'll be right back. You're still watching Viewer Exclusive on Viewer Television. I'm still in conversation with Dr. Victor, who is giving us insights on how you can hold the government of the day accountable to good governance. Now, before we went on a break, you were talking to us about policies. Let's ask directly now. You're talking to the government. What kind of policies should we begin to see stemming out from, like, segmented policies that we say that can push us to where we ought to be as a nation?
Okay, thank you. Instead of me trying to present some policy suggestions to the government, I would rather propose a change in methodology of how policies are initiated.
Okay.
Just like I started by saying, policies are supposed to be designed to address the peculiar needs of each community. I will suggest that before any kind of policy is made, the people should be consulted. I will suggest that for any kind of policy to be initiated for a society, there is supposed to be a proper needs assessment. There is supposed to be a proper framework where the people are actually consulted.
How can these people be consulted?
Fine.
How can they be accessed? How can they be consulted? Because like we said, they seem to be so far away from us. We hear this, your local government chairman, he's there, he comes only when allocation has come, and he's not seen again till next month. So how do we see them? How do we hold them accountable and say, okay, guys, we need to see you. This local government has these needs and this and that, and then we need to see you. How do we do that? Now,
unfortunately, we have all of these systems. We have all the framework in place. Only that the sincerity of implementation is not always there. What do I mean? If you say, how do we see them? How do you get your local government chairman? How do you get your councillors? How do the state governors select their commissioners? I see that they select their commissioners. One of the criteria is they intend to give representation to each local government. How does the president get the ministers? How do we get the legislature, the members of House of Assembly, members of House of Representatives, the senators? How do we, all of these things mostly come out, are extracted from the local people. But like I said, in actual practice, are they truly the representative of the people? That is where the question is. But if it is in terms of the system framework, is already there. We have systems whereby we insist, governors will insist that, okay, I want each commissioner to come from each local government and what have you. And what is the theoretical assumption? Is to provide a sense of belonging to each community. For everyone to feel that, okay, we have this person that is... But the big gap mostly happen when those people get appointed, they completely disconnect themselves from where they came from. And that is why you are there to represent the people, but the people cannot see you until after 4 years when you are back to start seeking re-election. And if it is in terms of platforms, if it is in terms of forums where people can be able to be accessed, for crying out loud, we have so many avenues where these people can be reached. During electioneering period, we see that they organize a lot of campaigns, they organize town halls, all of those things. But these are things that are not supposed to happen only during political seasons.
So that's the question. How do we get this to continue to happen?
So the sustainability of some of these things beyond the electioneering period is where the issue is.
That's where the issue is.
If, even though you say we will talk about the legislature separately, but if each arm of government can be able to take their constituency, I don't want to call it constituency project so that maybe the legislature will not feel I'm talking about them completely. But if they will begin to take this kind of, constituency focus more seriously, whereby all effort before you initiate any kind of policy, if I have a legislature in Abuja, if I have a legislature in the state capital as a member of the House of Assembly, how often do they go back to their local people and ask them?
That's the thing.
I have a sitting on Tuesday. I want to move a motion on this. How does this, or how do you feel about, or how does this fit into our immediate need? Or the people will say, okay, we need this, we need that, and you'll be able to articulate that so that when you stand to say, I represent the good people of this, you are not actually lying. You are actually saying the truth, that you truly represent them. But in the actual practice, most of these things happen on the level of semantics. They like the words, they like the way the sentences are arranged, and when they stand up to talk, they just talk with a lot of hypocrisy.
And not actually speaking the heart of
exactly.
The minds of the people.
You say you represent the good people of this community. But in the actual sense, are you truly a representative? Did you consult them? Do you always hear them? I don't even want to talk about the legitimacy of how they got there. That is a subject for another day. But now that you are there by hook or by crook, do you normally go back to them and hear them and have systems whereby you can be able to sit down with them? And by sitting down with them, there can be two forms to it. There can be formal engagement and there can be informal engagement. Formal engagement are the things I have talked about. Those, town hall meetings, constituency meetings, and what have you. Informal engagement. Go to those places where they sit to, have their tea in the evening. You are their representative. You are not supposed to feel that maybe now you are of higher class and you cannot sit down on their mat and have interactions with them. So when you sit down there, in the course of those kind of informal conversations, you pick out a lot of things. But all of these things are not there. And that is why I always say, in theory, these are how we are supposed to structure our political system, especially to provide a good sense of belonging to the people at the grassroots. But in actual practice, these things don't.
It seems like the issue now is having sincerity of our representatives.
Absolutely.
Everything is already there. We have the mind to meet with our representatives, but they are never there. And it seems like they are too far and we cannot have them come around. But you've talked about the legislature and you said you don't want to talk about their constituency projects, but would have to talk about that a little bit, if that's fine, right? In the three arms of government, the legislative, they seem to be our direct representatives, but they are not. We see this happen in other countries where people can call their MPs and all that. Is that system even there? Let's know whether if it's the case of it's not functioning or it's not being respected, but do we have that system? Okay. That we can go to them, not even they come in or they're holding town halls, that we can approach them.
Okay, let's interrogate this a little bit further.
Okay.
Poverty has been weaponized in our society that it has become so deep that it has affected the way our people think, the way our people present their demands. I will explain this.
Okay.
You talked about the people approaching their representative to talk and what have you. Now, because of this problem of endemic poverty that we have in the system, when these people have an opportunity to meet with their legislature, do you really think they present societal demands to them?
They present personal.
Or they present personal demands? That is another thing.
Yeah.
So even when we try to pick the hammer and be hammering on those elected legislature, but in the actual sense, when the people have an opportunity to sit with their legislature, when the people have an opportunity to visit them, maybe during festive period and what have you, you sit down on their carpet, they sit down on on their chairs as monarchs, and they ask you, what are the problems? People don't really present societal issues. People don't really present communal issues. Instead, people really start talking about personal issues. Oh, my children's school fees, my wife is pregnant, and all of those kind of things. And when the legislature released that 20,000, 50,000, he feels
he has done his constituency job.
Exactly. So that is why in the first place I said I don't like that word constituency project, because it has been abused, and it is something that it is not really what we are making it look like. So if we want to have this conversation, we have to interrogate this further by saying that, okay, if the government are truly serious, that they want to really engage the people, they want people to truly participate in politics and governance, the conversation must start from addressing this problem of poverty.
Okay.
Because when I don't have money in my pocket, when I don't have food in my kitchen, when my children, when their stomach infrastructural part is not properly addressed, I have an opportunity to meet someone who is presenting a kind of a messianic outlook to me that can be able to bail me from my current predicament. I cannot start talking about boreholes in the community. I cannot start talking about roads. I cannot start talking about, the revolutionizing of the agricultural sector. I will first start asking for my problems to be addressed, then all other things can follow.
I will still put that on the shoulder of the legislature, because that's the reason you are there. Talking about sincerity now, so it means that you're taking advantage of the personal plights of these people. And of course, I've gone to my constituency, I've released 1 million around. That should do a lot. Now let's talk about constituency projects. On one hand, we hear people say your reps are not, they are not contractors, they are not supposed to do that, but they have constituency projects. right? So what kind of projects are they supposed to be engaging in their constituencies?
Okay.
Do they do that?
The reason why I told you ab initio that this constituency projecting is not my line of thinking is because I have written extensively on demanding to know what is the rationale for this constituency project that you dish out to this legislature. If you will give me money to go and implement a project in my community, why do we have these statutory agencies? Why do we have the Ministry of Works? Why do we have these people that are constitutionally saddled with the responsibility of handling this kind of project, and you are giving me the money directly and you're calling it constituency allowance to go and do constituency project. So personally, you ask for my personal opinion, that is also another avenue for corrupt practices. You and I, as Nigerians, you will know that this constituency allowance thing do not really go down to the people of the people at the grassroots. It's a big lie. What normally happens is that these monies are used as if it is a personal favor the legislature is doing for his community. For crying out loud, you get money from the federation account in form of, you call it constituency allowance. You go there and you construct borehole, and your boys are busy taking photographs, tagging you on social media, praising you, and even thanking you as if it is something that you remove from your personal pocket.
It's your job.
And our people's psyche has been, deliberately crafted to believe that if a legislature goes down to his constituency and embark on any kind of project, be it scholarship, be it maybe renovation of schools, because that is what they do at most. They renovate schools, they dig one borehole, and they make a big noise out of it. So at the end of the day, the people are meant to believe that it is this person's good heart that is actually doing that, not really a constitutional obligation on his neck. Not knowing that these people get money on a monthly basis to go back to their constituency and implement a project that can at least translate to meaningful development for the people. They don't do that. They give you an impression. In fact, when they sit down with their constituents, when they sit down with their boys, when they sit down with those people, they lie to them. They make them believe, oh, there is no money now. They have not given us any more, but I will try to get money to do this for the community and what have you. And that is why when you hear the narratives, it's really appalling. And sometimes you will think as if we are at the mercy of these politicians. It's just what they decide to do, is what they do. When what they decide not to do, they will not do them.
So I think from what you've just said now, information is key. The people need to be sensitized to know that this is the role of these our legislatures. This is not their. So you should demand that they do it in any little form that you can. And from what you've said now, in essence, the system seems to be there. What we need to work on is sort of an ideological reform so that we change the way we see and the way we approach things generally. Before we let you go, any final words for us?
Okay, yes, you talked about ideological reforms. It piqued my attention. Before you advocate for ideological reform, there must be sincerity of heart and purpose. If you are talking about ideological reforms, it must come from an angle of sincerity. Are you really sincere about reforming the status quo? Yes, you said information is power, people should be informed or whatever. But I will also tell you, maybe as a radical, that the information system has been deliberately blocked in such a way that people do not even know their constitutional rights and their constitutional obligations. And it's deliberate. Just like they deliberately weaponize poverty, they also deliberately gag this information system whereby people are not aware. And when people are not aware, they feed on people's ignorance. When people are ignorant about some of these rights, so it becomes easier for propaganda to flourish. It becomes easier for falsehood to always go down to the public domain and start saying, oh, this person is like us because he has constructed borehole, but it's not from me. So if I can have any final word, I will say I'm advocating more for sincerity, honesty.
On whose part?
Less on the part of the leaders.
The leaders.
Please, there should be less of hypocrisy. There should be, if you truly you want to do any kind of project, if truly you want to implement any kind of policy, please address that from the angle of, I really want to address a need rather than I want to win election in 2027. Most of the project I get was how I can be able to win election. You ask, you are busy constructing flyovers in a society that people are really struggling to eat. in a society where the poverty indices is really very low, in a society where unemployment rate is always on the increase.
That's the one we can see.
And you want to construct this flyover so that it will be very good for the media. People can take pictures and say, oh, this person is doing. So the sincerity is what I'm mostly advocating for.
All right, thank you so much for being here. And then when we talked about information, we're hoping that that is what we can do here to try to break the status quo and give you all the information so you know all your rights and all your plights. That's all we can take on this episode of Viewer Exclusive. Until I come your way again, I am Chinon Supam. Do take care.